If it hurts, you ain't breaks, no games, you know it up, put on more steam. Protect our kickers, our quarterback, our lead, our ball game. All obstacles, block, cut, sides, blue games after this win. First, you again, here for the first minute. Carry block, you never 6 minutes.
Rocky Top!
I don't believe there are good people that pull for Georgia. I think they're all terrible, ugly, disgusting human beings. I think it's just that no, there are no good Georgia fans, Eric. There are none.
Mark Stoops is 2-9 against this team, and to walk around this place before the game, I was disgusted. The smugness of those guys just walking around like, we're going to walk in here, we're going to kick your ass, and you can't do anything about it. And it made me sick. And you know what? They did it. They still did it. What the hell? Can we just beat this team? I know that Mark Stoops has done a lot of good things. This is his one really bad thing. The stupid stat about beating teams with a winning record and taking the next step and blah, blah. Just freaking beat Tennessee. Please, can we just stop losing to this stupid team with that stupid orange color, this stupid
Western Hall, so.
Oh my God, we should leave it at that.
Okay.
We should close with that. That is the mind blower of mind blowers.
Good.
And yeah, other than that, I think just the fans. I love the fans, the culture here. And yeah, that's pretty much what I chose you.
I'm gonna have to get him to start watching my film in the off season too.
Obviously, I watch Coach Hines' old clips. It's kind of like black because they ain't got that. You ain't got
Black and white.
they ain't got the black and white film
That's
up, man.
messed up.
Do you remember when we fell in love? I remember, don't worry. Do you remember? I remember how it all began. How could I ever forget? It's the first time. Do you remember? I can feel it. I can feel it. I can feel it coming in the air now. I can feel it. I can feel it, I can feel it, it's coming in the air now. Oh no, we fell in love, you remember how could I ever forget? You remember oh no, we fell in love, you remember how could I ever forget? Coming in the air now.
Welcome to the Talkin VAWLS Network. My name is Boogie Bentley. Hope you guys are having a good Wednesday evening. We got stuff to talk about, man. It's exciting. I was just talking to Cain in the back room right before we went live here, and it is exciting for it to be January the 3rd, and there is still a buzz in the air. There is an excitement in the air for Tennessee football, and that is the Nico effect. We're going to get into it. We're going to talk about it. We're going to recap the Citrus Bowl with Cain. It's kind of weird, man. It's kind of weird talking to that guy on a Wednesday night. Is it Wednesday? I don't even know what day it is anymore. You go through Christmas, you go through the holiday season, you don't know if it's Tuesday or Saturday, but man, we're going to talk about it regardless, break down that Citrus Bowl. We're going to get excited and look ahead to 2024. We're going to talk about some of the young guys on this roster. Let's run it down, though. Let's see what you guys are up to. Let's see who is in the chat ready for this Wednesday night show. We got 150 people watching right now. Guys, smash the thumbs up and share it out. Let people know that we are live. Let's get some people in here hanging out, having a good time. There were more people in here watching me play video games last night. Let's fix that. Let's fix it now. Share out the link. Louisiana Ball was here. Says, I'm the first one here, I reckon. Are you saying you're the first one here, I reckon? Go Big Orange, are you saying I'm the first one here? I reckon go Big Orange. Ball Fan for Life is in the house. Dylan Elam is here. Papa J is here. What's up, my friend? Matt is here. The Mats are here. Matt Dumit and Matt Zimmerman both in the house. What is up, guys? Come on in and smash that thumbs up. T. Malone says, is this the charity stream? No, it is not. But you can still drop door fees, super chats, whatever you want to do. The charity stream will be coming up after the national championship game. Got to get all that organized and set up. Should be a good time. We got a $5 super chat from Papa J. Says, let's start the door fees now. Well, I appreciate that, Papa J. Paul Lindsay for $5 says, went to the game, 4th row, 45-yard line, stayed at the same motel as the Iowa alumni. What an experience. I hope you enjoyed the game, man. Look, it was a fun one to go to. Total domination, 35-0. Let's get Cainer on here, and let's talk about it.
You are Locked On Vols, your daily podcast on the Tennessee Volunteers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
The hardest working man in the business. Traveled all the way home from Orlando. How many days did you spend in a house? Was it like a bachelor pad, just pizza boxes everywhere?
It was fun, man. We were there for 6 days. Brent Hubbs, man, he's the chef. He cooks us dinner every night. Got a lot of work done. Watched football every single night. It was fun, but it's always good to be home, that's for sure.
I was laughing because I was like, what is this? Like, is this a cooking show? Like, posting all the meals that were prepared for the week. But yeah, I'd imagine that would be a good time going down, hanging out. If you enjoy the people you work with, you were in a house with AP, in a car with AP. I guess that could get a little tiresome at times. It must be good. Must be good to be home.
Nah, man, it was fun, man. Again, we were kind of talking on the way back, man. Just I mean, you know what we say it all the time. So blessed to do what we do. Left for a week to go cover football practice, to cover press conferences, to cover a football game. And it's sad again because blink of the eye, football's gone, and we have to wait 8 months to see it again. But it was a whole lot of fun, and I know we're going to talk about it. But, boy, that football game was fun too, and Nico was fun, and there's a lot to be excited about.
Yeah, the buzz in the air, man, for it to be January. We're at the beginning of the off season, but let's just dive right into it. Let's talk about the Citrus Bowl. It was total domination, man, and I've seen a small, you know how it is, you see that small little minority out there with that negativity of, well, it's just Iowa. You can call it before the game. We were talking about it right here on this channel, saying if Tennessee goes out and dominates Iowa, the storyline is just going to be Iowa's not that good. Top 5 defense, Tennessee took care of business, 35-0. Doesn't get better than that. You pitched a shutout. What more do you want from this defense? What are your takeaways, though, from that Citrus Bowl win for Josh Heupel?
Not 100%. It's, if the defense goes out there and, does well, it's like, oh, well, it's the worst offense in the country. And I've been prefacing a lot of my comments by saying that because, again, I don't want to overreact. But if the defense goes up a lot, it's like, oh, my gosh, it's Iowa. What are you doing? But, I mean, I don't think anybody predicted a shutout. I don't think anybody predicted a defensive touchdown. I don't think anybody predicted James Pierce to go out there and just be a stud. I mean, he is a stud, don't get me wrong, but he was responsible for 2 touchdowns. Obviously the pick 6, but I mean, his strip sack there inside the 5-yard line set up Nico's 3rd rushing touchdown. So, man, there was a lot to like about that game. Offensively, Iowa kind of drug him down there. It was ugly at times, 7 punts. Nico was sacked 6 times. So again, it wasn't all roses. Nico was very pedestrian through the air, and I think that's okay. You know why? Well, because Tennessee ran for 230 yards, and because Nico had the presence and the awareness to avoid pressure when he wasn't getting sacked and take the ball and run. And Tennessee, called design quarterback runs to get him in the end zone, not once but twice. Man, there was a lot that I liked. And again, a couple of drops. If Ramel Keaton just runs through his route, maybe those passing numbers look a little different by game's end. But, man, it was good to see. I mean, it was really good to see. Iowa, a solid football team. That defense, I still think, is a solid defense. They shut down Michigan's run game, a couple weeks ago in the Big Ten Championship, and Tennessee just ran right through them. So it was cool, man. It was cool. It was good to see football again, but it was cool to see kind of the I know there were guys playing in that game that won't play for Tennessee next year, but it was kind of fun to see the 2024 Vols.
You know, that's a good point, because one thing that I like was seeing Jalen McCullough. And as much crap as that guy takes, whether it be on the general's quarters, whether it be on the comment section of YouTube, man, that kid's a VFL, and that was his last opportunity to go out there and play for the Power T. So it was good to see him, close out his career. But then there is the excitement of the young 24 kids that are going to be going out there next year and taking over this football team. But I'm not trying to throw Joe under the bus. One of the things about Nico, you mentioned him being able to escape the pocket. And even when he did get sacked, Coach Jay brought up a good point in the postgame show. A lot of times when he got sacked, he got back almost to the line of scrimmage, like a loss of 1, loss of 2, because of that elusiveness, because of that pocket awareness. With Joe Milton, do you think Tennessee wins this game 35-0? And look, I preface that by saying you were down 3 offensive linemen. You were depleted. You had backups at both tackles. It was a rough go on the offensive line. I don't think that's the same type of football game with Joe Milton. Nico's legs are what allowed you to kind of get in the end zone, especially in the red zone.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you'd have won 35-0. I don't know if you would have won kind of as dominating, but I still think it would have been a big Tennessee win, because offensively Iowa just couldn't do a thing. And, I'm still predicting James Pierce to be going off and doing what he did and all that, setting up a short field. I mean, I would expect Tennessee would have scored from the 4-yard line if Joe was the quarterback there as well. But I get your point about how he had the elusiveness, he had the presence to know when to tuck it and run, kind of get back to the line of scrimmage, don't let a sack become a 12-yard loss and all that. So I don't know if it would have been 35-0, but I still think Tennessee would have just kicked the crap out of him, because that's kind of what happened. But man, it was really, really cool to see what he was doing, and it was cool to see Joe there as well. I mean, Joe might have been the happiest guy there, right? Because he was getting love from the fans. He still goes out on a high note with what he did against Vanderbilt. He gets to see his friend, his boy, go out there and ball out. I just think it was that the whole. I know we haven't really talked on air since Nico took over. The way all that was handled, I think, was perfect. Tennessee wanted Nico to get out there and go. Nobody was going to tell Joe that he couldn't play. Joe decides to opt out. Okay, great. Thank you. Have fun. Nico, let's go. Just the whole graphic, social media, passing of the torch. I thought that from a PR perspective, it couldn't have been handled any better, and it played out that way as well.
Jenny Van for 5 real quick says, I was there, great experience. First game since 2009, first bowl game I've been to since the 2000 season. I went with my Iowa alum fan. GBO, that's awesome, Jenny. Hope you had a great time down there at the game. You mentioned the way the quarterback situation was handled and the timing, right? The gamesmanship from Josh Heupel, where I'm going to sit on it. Why would I make this public knowledge? And I was laughing about the question, listening to Nico after the game, and one of the reporters asked some question of they asked Heupel. They asked Heupel, why did you sit on that? Why did you wait? And he's like, he just sits up there and plays dumb. He's like, what are you talking about? And I was explaining to my wife why that was comical, and she's like, why in the world would you tell anybody? Why would you tell anybody that that's what's happening, that you're going to opt out and Nico's going to take over? But I think the big picture for me is the fact that Joe was at practice, the fact that Joe was at the bowl game, the fact that Joe has been there the whole ride, right? And man, that's why I love Joe Milton, and I know he has got a rough go of it on this channel from a lot of directions, but he is a VFL. He has been a great teammate. He's been a great person, and, just his entire journey, the relationships between him and Hendon, right? You lose your starting job to this guy. The competitive fire in you wants to go, screw you, this is my job, and you compete. He didn't do that. And then here comes Nico. The fan base falls in love with him. Joe's just sitting back here like chopped liver, but he's still a great teammate. And it just speaks to the culture that Josh Heupel's created. And I know we throw that word around, but it's the reality.
No, you're right, man. And I mean, we were talking on my show and, on your show kind of leading up to the bowl game before Christmas. And that's kind of when the rumors were like, was it Nico or Joe? Nico or Joe? And I mean, everybody I'd talked to, and you're checking, it's like, Joe's been at practice. Joe's been out there. So, I mean, I still thought that, it wasn't all 100% certain that Joe was going to play. But at the time, it's like, well, Joe's practicing. Why on earth would he not play? You know what I'm saying? But I think he was still going through his process and talking with his people and talking with Tennessee. And in the meantime, Nico was getting those first-team reps. Nico was going through the process as if this was going to be his start. So, on the time of Wednesday of game week, just as when we get down there to Orlando, when the news comes out that Joe opts out, it's not just like, oh no, here I go, I'm Nico, I'm going to go start now. No, he had already been preparing as if he was going to. So again, Joe Milton, you're right, man. He chose Tennessee a couple of times, and I think that at points in times, a lot of people could question his competitiveness and all that, but he's a VFL. He is a great teammate. And he was a pretty daggone good quarterback at times this year. I've seen some stats, and I know we can bend stats the way we want to sometimes, but Tennessee's had a quarterback responsible for 3,000 yards each of the past 3 seasons, Hendon, and Joe. And I mean, that hadn't been done in quite some time. I mean, think about all the bad quarterback play that's been here over the last 15 years or so. And then think about what Joe did this past season. Was it Hendon Hooker? No, wasn't close. Was it horrible? No, wasn't close. Everybody's excited for Nico again, but I think Joe's been a really good Vol for the last couple of years.
Sandwiched in between probably the 2 worst possible guys you could be sandwiched between, right? What if there's no Hendon Hooker? And what if Joe comes in, and let's say in year 2, instead of 11 wins, they go out and they have this year, right? They go 8-4 and they go get a bowl game win 9 games. We're all talking about, hey, man, Joe's kind of got this thing launched, right? He's kind of starting it. But no, you're coming behind Hendon, who had a shot at a national championship, a shot at a Heisman Trophy, and then now you're in front of the Golden Child. So tough spot for Joe Milton. Jeff Puckett drops a 20 spot. That's Orange Boy. We'll play the clip.
Rocky Top, you'll always be.
Jeff says, for those that can't see the difference with Nico, all you have to do is look at the red zone efficiency with him. We have struggled all year in the red zone, and it's easy to see it. Monday, it looked easy and smooth. That was something Coach Jay brought up post-game. By the way, I love just looking in the back room. You you can't see everybody, can you? Coach Jay just sitting in the back room, just chowing down, just nom, just having a good time watching the show from the front row, the VIP seats. Anyways, he mentioned post-game show, 100% in the red zone. That's where Tennessee struggled, man. And Nico's legs, I think they just open it up, right? It gives you that extra person you have to defend in the red zone. B.S. Osborne for a 20 spot. That's an Orange Boy. We'll play it again.
Rocky Top, you'll always be.
B.S. Osborne says, Talkin VAWLS and Locked On VAWLS, channels that I watch daily. Nico reminds me this soon-to-be 57-year-old VAWLS fan, 105 of Tony Robinson, 85 Sugar Vols with his fluid delivery and smooth running style. Happy New Year, GBO. Thank you, B.S. Osborne. Man, I love getting him on here. He comes on the fan call-in shows, and he's like, Boogie, I talk too much. I'm an old-timer. Those young kids. I'm like, dude, let me sit down and listen. I love hearing stories from old-time Tennessee fans. That's what I love about this channel. There may be a 16-year-old that listens. There may be a 70-year-old that listens. It is a wide variety, and I'm here for it. I love it. Donovan for 10. Wait a minute, Donovan's dropping money and not asking you questions? That's not like Donovan. He says, Nico can throw on the run. Joe can't. Nico throws a catchable ball. Joe does not. Nico could have won all 8 games. Joe won, period. 14-7 if Joe would have played. Nico is generational, and nothing bothers him. I'm going to save that for later. That is a topic we're going to get into on the back half of the show after Cain drops off. We're going to talk about what could have been. Did Josh Heupel drop the ball? What would the record have been had he rolled out the young freshman quarterback day one? We're going to do that on the back half of the show, so you guys stick around for that. You mentioned a lot of young guys right in this Citrus Bowl. And that's something that excited me, too. Of course, you're seeing Dylan Sampson get his first start as a running back. A lot of Cam Seldon, young guys in the secondary. I like seeing the pick from Andre Turrentine. Oh, yeah. Thought he played a really good football game. Who are some of the young guys that maybe getting their first run out there that impressed you? And I know Ricky Gibson's got some run, but who impressed you coming out of the bowl game that's probably going to be a key contributor in 2024?
And again, I will once again preface this with just how bad Deacon Hill and Iowa's offense is. It is what I mean. Those 2 interceptions. Hey, Andre Turrentine made a play. He made a play. But what are you doing throwing that football? You've got coverage over the top. You have a cornerback sitting at the end of the end zone. You have Turrentine running underneath the route. What are you doing making that throw? And then the little out route there. I mean, you got Pierce sitting right under it, and just throws it right to him. I don't get it. But no, Andre Turrentine, man. Like I thought he did some things against Georgia. Georgia's good. I thought he played well against Vanderbilt, and I thought he played well against Iowa. So I've liked Andre Turrentine for the last couple of weeks. I do. I like Jordan Thomas a lot, man. Biggest thing for him is collarbone, shoulder, knee. I mean, gosh, you got to keep him healthy. He's got put him in bubble wrap this offseason, though, except when he's in the weight room. And I mean, he's got to. Again, I'm not a trainer, right? Like he's got to have a big offseason. he's got to stay healthy next year because Tennessee needs him. And I think he's a good player. Ricky Gibson, he was out there for 51 snaps. Gabe Gigliotti was out there for a lot. I wish we would have saw some more Jordan Matthews, Christian Conyer. John Slaughter played 4 snaps. I don't understand. I can't comprehend why in a 28-0 game and a 35-0 game we aren't seeing these guys a little sooner. But a lot of those guys kind of stood out to me. But the ones that stood out to me, Andre Turrentine, Jordan Thomas stood out. And then let's go on the offense side of the football. Man, Cam Selton looked pretty good there for a little bit. The running back rotation was a whole lot of Sampson. Sprinkled it. It's like Jack and Coke. You got a lot of Jack and a little bit of Coke. You got a whole lot of Sampson, a little bit of Selden. But that little bit of Selden was fun, right? I mean, he kind of tiptoed in there on a 3rd and short run one time. He'll learn. Lead blocking on that quarterback sweep for the touchdown. I think he's a guy that's going to be a stud for Tennessee moving forward. So, again, a lot to like and a lot of young guys on display.
I like Selden's size with the speed, right?
Oh,
and
yeah.
I like seeing them go under center and run the I form and put in the extra tackle bodies. And they picked him up, man. Well, they have a couple of 3rd and 1s they picked up. I like it. I do wonder. I wonder about having, a 1-2 punch versus, this year you had Wright, Small, and Sampson. And we saw was at the Kentucky game, late in the game, where Sampson came in and he got hot and he kind of put that game away. And I don't know, is Peyton Lewis going to come in as a true freshman and be able to be that 3rd guy? Is Keith, everybody in the chat loves them, some Khalifa Keith, is he going to be able to be that guy? I think, Jabari Small was probably a little underrated.
Yeah. I mean, hey, Jabari had a great career. When you think about it, he had a great career. He rushed for 2,000 yards. He was a touchdown scoring machine in 2021 and 2022. All he did was score touchdowns. And he was kind of an afterthought this year. But you talk about a guy that came in, a 3-star recruit, undersized from Memphis. He had a really, really good career. I think Peyton Lewis could be like Dylan Sampson was in 2022. Got a little bit of run, had a little bit of a presence, but it was the Jabari Small and Jalen Wright show with just a smidge of Dylan Sampson. I think that could be maybe Peyton Lewis next year because I think Cam Selton's only going to get better. And I looked down that stat sheet and Dylan Sampson, what do you have? He had 20 carries. I mean, good grade. When was the last time you saw a Tennessee running back have 20 carries? Yeah. Had 133 yards. Look what happens, right? Good things can happen the more you give a football to a dynamic player. So I would love to see Sampson, Selden, and then just a little bit of Peyton next year.
Obviously, big news this week. Brew McCoy returns, coming back, one last ride. I think that's huge for this wide receiver room. What are your thoughts on Brew, what he brings to the table? And obviously, a lot of buzz about a certain little wide receiver in the transfer portal that disappeared. Do you think Brew McCoy had anything to do? Do you have any information? Can we get the inside scoop, Mr. Insider, of what happened with Stewart?
I think Tennessee went in there and kind of gave its due diligence and studied around there and, talked to the, situation and evaluated. And, I think that there was some interest, but I don't think it was ever Tennessee was the front runner. I really don't think it was ever Tennessee was the team to beat. And things change all the time. So I know that, like I say this and tomorrow, maybe that changes, but I don't think that was ever the case for, Tennessee and Evan Stewart. So I think it was something they were willing to look at, but something that wasn't ever going to be likely at this time, in my opinion. Now, for Brew McCoy, dude, I mean, what can't you do with Brew McCoy? You know what he can do. You know what he can do in this offense. He not only knows what to do, he knows the why, like why you're doing it this way. He talked about that with the media one time last year. He was like, hey, I came over here and I learned the offense and I was good, but like I kept wondering, why are we doing this? Why are we doing it this way? And then now, like, oh yeah, this is why we're doing it this way. He's a coach on the field. He's a pretty daggone good player. He is a blocker. Tennessee loves some of those screen routes, man. He will put a cornerback in the turf and love it. And he's just an overall calming presence in that room. And he's great for Nico. Really, really good for Nico heading into 2024. So you look at this wide receiver room now, severely lack playmaking ability in 2023. Brew got hurt. No Hyatt, no Tillman. Now you got Brew. Dante Thornton. We'll see if anything happens there, of course. The new rule about transfers is that they have until Friday. They can go transfer again. But Brew, Dante Thornton, Webb, Nimrod, Chris Bradslow, who I think is going to be the real deal. Got Squirrel, got Braylon Staley, got Mike Matthews. I mean, that room shaping up to be pretty good for a young quarterback. And Brew McCoy is going to be the leader / coach of that room.
If you had to put money on it right now, Who are your 3 wide receivers? Brew McCoy, Squirrel White, and who's on the outside?
Brazel.
100%.
I mean, he's got to come in and
confident?
earn it, right? He's got to come in and prove that he can do it. But yeah, I do. And Thornton was kind of handed that job a lot. Well, he didn't start, but Thornton was kind of handed a lot of playing time early on. I think Brazel will come in and kind of earn it because he'll be competing. If Thornton's still on the team, he'll be competing with Thornton. He'll be competing with Nimrod and Webb. But man, he's been productive. I understand it's a Tulane. I understand you got to prove it on the main stage, but there's a lot about his tape that I think is going to translate. And he's a playmaker, and I think he's going to earn it. So I would say it would be Brew, Brazel, Squirrel, and then a lot of guys nipping at the heels, and maybe we see more than just 3 wide receivers play on a consistent basis next season.
You don't believe that for 1 second.
We saw it a little bit this year. Now, granted, there were injuries, and Tennessee really just didn't have playmakers, so we saw it a little bit more this year. But when that thing's humming, usually it's just 3, but we'll see.
I'm doubling down on Thornton. And it's not like I was the only one that thought he was going to be a stud, but when he was in the portal and there was buzz about Tennessee, I was excited because of his
I still
speed.
like Thornton a lot. I still think that he
too.
can translate. There's too much there not to work, if that makes sense. And again, it's not like he was, it's not like he was Jerry Rice out there, but he was starting to come around when you got him out of the slot.
Right.
Slot. I mean, I think he was just thinking too much. He was dropping passes. He was not running with confidence. Moving to the outside, he was coming around, man, and I still think that there's a lot to be taken there, but obviously he's got some competition now with Chris Brazel.
The guys in the back room want to know about Nathan Laycock. Any scoop? I know there's some buzz. Keep an eye on him. What's his issue? What is he struggling with? What's the scoop on Nathan Laycock?
I just think it's a young guy moving up and going to Division I Power 5 football, and it doesn't translate as quickly for everybody. I mean, I think there's a lot to like about his skill set and about what he can do, but I just think that it was kind of a steep learning curve, and he's still growing in that regard. Again, Tennessee's got it. Tennessee players, because of the bowl game, have until Friday. I'm not saying that he won't enter the portal, but I haven't really heard a whole lot of his name being, thrown around. I just think that it's early on in his career, and he can benefit a lot from spring practice and from getting some more reps. But you saw a lot of guys how it kind of translated a little bit more quickly for. He was one of those guys that it didn't, and sometimes that happens. But I still think that there's a lot to like about that skill set. It's just he just got to come around a little bit.
Got a super chat here from Jeff Puckett for $5. Says, I don't get to see your shows live, Eric, but I wanted to let you know I love them. Keep up the good work. I, for one, appreciate it. What's going on over there at Locked On Vols? I think just about everybody here is already subscribed, but if you're not, go subscribe to Cainer at Locked On Vols. What do you got coming up, man? Best coverage for basketball and baseball, because I ain't talking about that here. It's football all day, every day. So you want that basketball, baseball scoop, go check out Cainer. But what do you got coming up this week or in the next month or so?
Hey, Jeff, appreciate it, man. Thanks for the kind words. Haven't done a whole lot of basketball yet this year, Boogie, so you're setting me up to fail there, but I need to. Hey, tomorrow's show, making the case for Tennessee to be 10-2. We had that question on the VolQuest podcast, so I brought it over to my podcast because, good hosts steal from others, right?
That's exactly what we do.
Making the case for 10-2. Am I saying Tennessee's going to be 10-2? Absolutely no. But it could be. So let's make that case for 10-2, and then we're going to revisit Tyree West's comments from postgame. Boogie, if you haven't seen those comments from Tyree West, you need to play them on this show because your listeners would eat it up. Some great stuff. All that and more Locked On Vols coming up tomorrow and every weekday for 30 minutes or less.
Man, I've got Dylan Sampson queued up to launch this conversation. Now I feel like I need to go see what Tyree West
Have you seen his comments, though? Have you read them? Have you heard them?
No. Is it in print where I can get it somewhere?
I'm sure somebody's written a story about it. But he pretty much said, somebody asked him about Nico, and he said, we're going to the Natty. We're going to the Natty with Nico.
Oh, I'm down for that, man. We'll let you get out the door. I know you've been sick, you've been battling, you've been struggling, you've been with Austin Price for 4 or 5 days. So
been going through it.
We'll let you. God, thoughts and prayers. We'll let you jump off here. We're gonna do the charity stream coming up. Same thing we did last year. I told him that you were gonna drag somebody from VolQuest over here with you.
Yeah.
I'll let you decide who that's gonna be, but we'll touch base soon. We'll get all that ironed out and scheduled. But it's always a good time. We're gonna be doing some crossover stuff, guys, throughout the off season. Random. We'll let you guys know when that's coming. But it's always a good time.
I'm about to leave the country for a week coming up, and I'll be pre-recording a lot of my shows. So You know what that means? You're gonna have a Boogie and Cain show, at least one or two maybe from that week. So a lot of crossovers coming up.
Somebody said on the last one we did, I forget, I don't even remember what the topic was. They were like, Boogie, that's not true. You just said the total opposite when you were on with Cain. And I was like, dude, I recorded that show like a week ago. Things change in a week's time. So it's always a good time. But we'll do it, man. Hit me up. We'll pre-record some stuff.
All right, sounds good. Appreciate you guys. Have a great rest of your night.
Later, buddy. All right. Go check out Locked On Vols. I'm going to force him to cover some Tennessee basketball and baseball, whether he likes it or not. All right, let's keep this thing a-rolling. We got all kinds of guys in the back room. Coach Jay back there. What were you eating back there, bro? What are you doing with your life, Coach Jay? Look, he's on mute. Such an unprofessional, but he's making the mistake first so that Matt can fix his mic and get ready to go.
Sour strawberry straws.
It looked delicious. You look like you were having a good time back there.
They're very good. They're very, very good. Yeah, enjoying them thoroughly. And gummy bears. I borrow.
Got the X Factor back in the house. What's up, brother?
What's going on, guys? Happy New Year to you. I said, how you guys enjoying day 3 of the new year?
Is this when I drop the joke and say, I haven't seen you in a whole year, X?
I mean, if you want to, whatever makes you feel better, if you want to.
Yes, we got Matt Begley in the house. I threw up the bat signal. I said, jump on here and talk some Tennessee football with us. He said, I would love to. What's up, buddy?
Yes, sir. What's going on, Boogie? What's going on, guys? Happy New Year to y'all.
We got a lot to get into, man. Like, I didn't really – I told Cain, I was like, man, you ever feel like you just don't have it and you're trying to figure out what to talk about? And he's like, dude, you can just hit the go button and you'll figure it out. Shot by Andrew for 2 says, what's up, guys? What is up? Shot by Andrew. Good to see you in the chat, my friend. All right, where are we going to pick up this conversation? We were talking about Brew McCoy. I guess let's just dive right to 2024. Let's talk about the future. And I wanted to play this clip. I wish I had the Tyree West clip. That would be a great one. But this is one I like, too, from Dylan Sampson after the bowl game.
A game like this, you kind of do when you're playing for another game, but that's what this work gonna go into next season. So we make sure we playing at this time next year. That's the goal. To be playing at this time next year and going forward to another game. But as soon as we finish this game, I told everybody it's just time to go to work. Everybody ready to go to work. Like it's time to drop off the grid and just show up in 2024 ready to dominate.
Ready to play another game. They are ready to play another game. They don't want to call it quits yet. This football team has a pep in their step. They have a pep in their step. Last year, coming off the Orange Bowl victory, man, we were all excited. We were talking about, hey, man, maybe Joe will put it together. It's different this year. They won 9 games, not 11. It is different. Coach, you want to tell me why it's different? Why is there a pep in their step?
I think you just nailed it. I think you just said a really key word. Last year we were saying maybe, right? If Joe, will Joe, can Joe, right? These are the words we were talking about with Joe Milton. And they're, coincidentally, the words that we're leaving out of the conversation with Nico. I think everyone believes that he will go out there and get better. Coach Hype said it several times. So is Coach Halsey. So is Coach P that was around him in high school. Nico is one of those kids who learns very, very quickly and doesn't make the same mistake twice. Like throwing out to Caleb Webb on the bubble and throwing a little too low, and then the very next play, looking off the backs and hitting squirrel right in the numbers on a similar play, right? Just fixing all those little things in between. But yeah, I think he'll do that absolutely, and he'll continue to learn those plays where he should scramble, where he should be, quick on his feet and jumping out, and those plays where he should scramble for a second and throw the ball away, right? So I think he'll learn all those things, and y'all know it's well documented. He's going to listen, the Nico you just saw in that bowl game will be not the Nico you see against Chattanooga week 1. You will see a much, much, much improved Nico against Chattanooga to start off the season next year.
We're gonna play a game here in just a second with Nico. We're gonna go back in time. We're gonna jump in the DeLorean. We're gonna hit 88 miles an hour, and we're gonna have some fun with it. You guys, X and Matt, you guys haven't been on the channel to talk about Nico. Let's start with X, and we'll roll over to Matt. What were your thoughts on him? Obviously, he's a big part of the reason why everybody's so excited. What'd you think getting to see him play a complete game, start to finish, as QB1?
Oh, yeah. Well, just like I said, in the previous show when I was last on here, that's why I nicknamed him the kid. And I think the really thing that impressed me with him is just his pocket awareness, man. Listen, like you know how Peter Parker has his spider sense, we're gonna call it his Nico sense. Like this kid, like his pocket awareness is just so good because as we seen, with Joe, Joe will kind of just make a read downfield and he would just get sacked, And yeah, I mean, even though Nico got sacked, a little bit in this game, but Nico he was calm, he was collected, he was reading the field, and then as soon as like he didn't see an open receiver, he just took off. So I think that was what really impressed me with Nico. And like I said, he's just calm, collected, and you could definitely see the leadership in him. I think that's going to be really big going forward to next season. But yeah, I'm excited, man. I mean, the future is really, really bright. And yeah, like this, like when you said earlier, Boog, like this is a different vibe, a different feel going into next season. And even the team, you can even see it from the team. Like they're excited. Very
I
excited.
can't remember who it was. I can't remember if it was a lineman. I think it was a lineman talking about Nico in the huddle. And it's like, you got a true freshman. He doesn't care. He is leading. He's barking out at guys saying this is what you need to do. He ain't intimidated, right? And that's he just looked cool as the other side of the pillow. The entire never looked rattled, never looked concerned. Just went out and balled out. Matt, what were your thoughts on the $8 million man? They wouldn't say it on the broadcast, but I'll say it right here. Allegedly,
Allegedly, right?
Allegedly.
I mean, what hasn't been said, but it's true. I mean, if you wouldn't have known, if you just hadn't followed Tennessee football all year long, and you flipped over to your first game watching Tennessee football on New Year's Day and you watched him play, you'd have thought he was a 3-year starter. I mean, he didn't have to do anything. He didn't force anything. There were no forced throws. He looked off receivers and threw. I mean, we've talked about it before that Joe would target guys and sometimes and misread throws. I think he had maybe 2 bad throws the entire game. Like Coach Jay said, came right back to it on one of those on a very similar play to correct it and fix it. You can just tell that it's in his blood to be good, and that's the fun part about it. I mean, I found out something really interesting over the weekend that my wife worked with his aunt in Utah, and then saw her live on the game, and got some intel that he's been that way his whole life. That he's just a confident kid who's worked his way into being confident in his own abilities, and I think the athleticism is something that a lot of Tennessee fans didn't expect, but you don't become one of the best volleyball players in the country if you're not super athletic. But man, his first step is dangerous. It reminded me very much of Hendon with, he didn't see something, he took off. I mean, Joe was the 4 or 5 step guy to get going, and then he was moving. Nico's feet are going to buy him time, and I'm excited, man. It's going to be, I mean, you already saw Brazel before he even came to Tennessee talking about Nico, and that's why he's here. I mean, it's going to be fun. I'm excited for sure.
Let's see. Let me get this super chat from Paul Lindsay for 10. Says, can you imagine Nico McCoy combo? Wow, times 10. Man, I'm so excited. It was so cool to hear, Nico talking about working on Brew and wanting Brew back and how important it was and him being a leader, and I cannot wait, man. I think Brew coming back is huge, and he's never going to be the big flashy guy, right? He's not going to be the Jalen Hyatt, but man, he is a huge part of this offense. Matt, you mentioned an interesting point talking about Nico, talking about the kid from Tulane wanting to come play with Nico. The Nico effect. All these guys coming back, all these offensive linemen, Dylan Sampson in that interview, Giddy, Tyree West, is that who they said it was? Tyree West talking about we're going to go win a natty. When they ask him about who, Nico. We waited for that Nico effect when he committed, and you got some guys. You've seen some of the Nico effect, but I think we are seeing more of a Nico effect right now, Coach Jay, than we've seen since he committed to Tennessee. I think they are pushing their chips in to make that run in 2024.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting to see if we can, pull in another offensive lineman or two, some depth pieces, right? What kind of defensive guys can you start pulling in? I know we got the second round of the transfer portal after spring, and usually players are a little harder to find in that second transfer portal, but you can find really good depth pieces in that transfer portal, and I think Tennessee will be able to add that too because of Nico. Along the offensive line, we really need to shore that up. We got kids getting younger, but every player that we can get that wants to be around Nico, we need to grab, and I think you're going to see that that effect more and more and more. I think we saw it with 5 of our most important starters on that offensive line already. Man, we've talked about it, right? That
Even crazier too is
what
that.
what
Oh, sorry.
yeah, no, I was just going to say what could have happened in that game if all 5 of those kids started? If Sprague started,
Oh,
Campbell
Mm.
started, Mays started. You know what I'm saying? Keurig started.
Yeah.
They wouldn't have got that pressure. Maybe once or twice. Maybe on that middle stunt where Sampson didn't pick up that kid, they would have still got. But besides that, I don't think you would have had such harsh burns, and the plays would have been affected. But yeah, go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, and I was going to say is the Nico effect that we kind of got even a little bit disappointed in the recruiting cycle about kids not coming to play here has taken over that locker room. I mean, if you watch the interview of Brew on VolQuest, it was talking. He didn't say it, but that's what he was saying about how excited the future he is, right? I mean, they're not going to come out. I think Wes dropped his name because you're not going to do that for a team. But, I mean, you just watch the guy's excitement. If you go back and watch what it was last year, I don't think you saw the same. I mean, we go back to the Clemson game. There was, some really good things Joe did, but there were some also really bad parts of that football game too. Even in the drives where we punted in this football game, they weren't on Nico, right? I mean, they just weren't. Offensive line got blown up a bunch of different times with the backup guys in there. The tackles had an awful game, right? I mean, he was running for his life. Even Hype decided on the second drive when they went and scored his second touchdown, they didn't throw the football one time the whole drive. They said, we're not even going to do it. Let's just run the football until you prove you can stop me. And that's what's so fun. I mean, I think there's some things to fix on this football team, but for sure there's a belief inside that locker room that the leader that they need is in place.
Absolutely.
I was, what I said to Cainer earlier about what would the Iowa game have looked like if Joe played in it, and I think it would have looked different. I think they would have won. I'm with Cainer on that. Iowa didn't do anything. You didn't score a single point. I think Joe could have let him down the field and scored a couple of points. I think Tennessee would have still won the game. But you look at Nico and just how good he looked, and I know there's some negativity. Oh, Nico, if that was Joe's stat line, you'd be critical. If Joe scored 4 touchdowns in a game, I wouldn't be critical. I would be talking about how athletic he was and how he made plays with his legs, and it excites me. So much speculation about what could have been, what should have been, what if. Did Josh Heupel drop the ball? Should Josh Heupel have started Nico? Everybody wants to have this conversation. I said I wasn't going to have it, but here we are. We are going to have it. If you go back to week 1 and you start Nico as a true freshman at the beginning of the year, X, do you think the win-loss record changes? What do you think this season looks like if Nico is the guy from day 1?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I believe that instead of winning 9 games, we could have won 10 games, I think. Now, as far as the Alabamas and the Georgia game, I still feel like you might take a loss to your 2 losses there. But like I said, I would have believed, we still probably could have possibly won 10 games. And it would have looked a lot better than this season. Like I said, not to disrespect or discredit for what Joe did this year, because like I said, he's evolved for life in my book. He stuck around when he could have went somewhere else. But, I actually believe that our record would look a lot different if you start Nico.
What games do you think Tennessee wins if Nico starts?
I think you definitely win Florida. That's the one I definitely want back. As y'all know, I can't stand Florida. I believe even with Cooper Mays out of that game, I feel like that if you started Nico, I feel like that he would have made multiple plays to get us over that hump into the swamp. I really feel like he would have had that confidence and that swagger to go in there and to just get the job done to secure that victory. So definitely Florida is the game that I want back if Nico started.
Yeah, for me it's Bama. Maybe Florida without Mays. Maybe hard to tell without Mincy. Hard to tell, but it's still early in the year, so maybe he's learned a little more. But Bama to me, really rings out because of the red zone issues in Bama, because of the pre-snap penalties in Alabama. You know, we talked about the red zone being fixed with Nico there, but the other thing we saw that was fixed that didn't get maybe as much pub was the pre-snap penalties, right? 0 pre-snap penalties, and everything we were talking about, that pre-snap communication, getting lined up. Tennessee struggled, you know, -0 at that last Saturday. They just looked really, really smooth. And when you go back and watch that Bama game and watch it on replay, and Boogie's getting tired of me sending him a million clips of Joe missing open wide receivers down the field, I think Nico would have hit those guys. I think we would have scored 2 more touchdowns in that first half, and you would have also got a lot more calm Tennessee offense in that second half, and we would have been able to run a little more clock and been a little more efficient with a larger lead. So, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say I think we would have won the Bama game. And, hey, after he won Bama, who knows, right? Maybe the team gets hot. Maybe you get that belief, and maybe you can step up and step out of your shoes and go beat a Missouri at that point. You know, belief is a weird thing on a football field. Momentum is a crazy thing on a football field, right? It's very, very powerful. So I don't know when Nico would have picked up that momentum in the season, but I do feel like he would have. And once he got that momentum, when he gets that momentum next year, they'll be scary. They'll be a problem and something to deal with.
I think this is an interesting comment from Voldog. Says, I think starting Nico day one would be the biggest backstab from a head coach, though. I understand that you have to earn it mentality, but Joe was the safest bet. And again, this is all speculation. It's not like I'm not trying to sit here and bury Joe. And, you know, what I said to Cainer was true. Like, you're sandwiched between a guy that we all wanted to win the Heisman and now a guy that we all think is going to win a Heisman. That's a tough spot for Joe Milton to be in. And you look at what Cainer said about all the bad quarterback play that we've had here. What if Joe was just the guy? What if there was no Hendon? What if you didn't sign Nico? We would all probably be saying, man, Joe did a really good job here. But it's because of who he sandwiched between that has created this what people want to call hate. You call it whatever you want, man. I was pulling for Joe. Everybody on this panel, everybody that's ever been on this show was pulling for Joe. You can't question that. It is what it is.
And you can't sit here and say that in practice when Mays goes down, man, you know Amari Thomas, you know Norman Lott was kicking the crap out of Ollie Lane and getting pressure on that offensive line. Like, are you going to sit there as Heupel and watch your offensive line getting blown up and go, yeah, let's throw Nico into that? You know, that's a little worrisome to me, whether he's more elusive or not. That scared me a little bit. That's my $8 million arm right there. I kind of want to keep him out of peril, right?
Shout out to Brian Staley in the chat. Excited, man, interacting with Brian on Twitter. We're going to get Braylon back on the channel coming up soon. We're gonna grill him for a good 30 minutes. You know, I got him for about 10 minutes on commitment day. We're going to get him for about 30, and me and Coach Jay going to set him up and grill him. I'm going to ask him if he's still got that girlfriend and if she's a distraction or is it time to move on. Get ready. I may have just lost that one. We may not get to do that now. What about you, Matt? You think the 2023 season plays out any differently? What if it was you? What if you're the head coach? You rolling Nico out there day one, knowing what you know, seeing what you see?
Not day one. I mean, I think I have to agree with Coach Jay on the fact of when you've got Coop that goes down and you see what happened inside and we saw it time and time again, not only obviously in practice, but we saw it in games too. Ollie struggled. I mean, he struggled at times. He was much better at the guard position than he was at the center position. But, I mean, I'm not going to throw a true freshman out there unless I absolutely have to, and Tennessee didn't have to. I mean, that's the thing. And Joe committed to Tennessee and stayed at Tennessee throughout two arguably hardest transitions after Hendon and then when Nico committed. And for the first 6-7 games, every single game, home game, you heard the Nico chants. I mean, you heard him at the Tennessee basketball games when he committed, you know. But I think you go back and you look at the games they lost, you're not beating Missouri, no matter who's quarterback, because you can't stop the run. You're not beating Georgia because you couldn't stop the run either, and you couldn't move the football because you couldn't block anybody. The Alabama second half is the game that I look at, because the Florida game, we could not run the football. It didn't matter who would have been quarterback that game either. We could not run the football.
But
So
does
the
Nico
Alabama,
open up the run though?
possibly, but if you don't have anybody to block for him with a center and you're starting right tackle out, it probably looks really similar to parts of the Iowa game with much better athletes up front in that game. I mean, that, I think the Alabama game is the one game when you go back and look, because you had them on the ropes. You had them on the ropes. You had the chance to step on their throat, and you didn't. And we did not convert in the red zone. And I think there was a comment about the red zone. It was actually, I think it was a super chat. In the red zone, he makes a huge difference, right? I mean, with his ability to escape and run. And we saw for the first time since Hendon called runs twice that scored. Joe didn't score except for one game. I think it was UTSA. I was at that game on that first play, but called runs that scored. And that was the Hendon effect that we saw a lot in the red zone. If you go back and look and watch the 2022 season.
Yeah, it just gives you another guy that you got to account for, right? Inside, one less linebacker that needs to worry about him when he rolls out to their side that can commit to the run or the pass. So he just eliminates, in some cases, two defenders. I mean, on the play where he scored after the Pierce fumble, I mean, he essentially froze those two linebackers and then just dipped in, so he just changes the red zone. He just does, very calmly, very smoothly. Just doesn't seem jittery down there, right? Like Joe almost,
hesitant.
I hate to go back to it. I hate to go back to the Ole Miss thing, but just like make a choice, believe in your choice, and execute your choice is the main thing. Heck, even if that choice is eating a sack, make it and eat it, and I think we'll all live with it. But the indecisiveness in football will get you killed every single time, guys, every single time.
Football IQ.
Strong choice.
Right, football IQ. And watching Nico, the play that we talked about post-game, we talked about it multiple times, but the little bootleg on the goal line. The football IQ, I've got this dude trapped. I can sit here and be patient and make him decide. And then when you see the opportunity, you just go. And he's got that quick first step, man, getting in the end zone. That you might as well call that a designed run too, Matt. That little bootleg. I mean, I know he had the throw pass option, but I mean, it was set up and it worked to perfection.
Oh yeah,
you're not getting that play call with Joe.
If you saw Heupel when he came over to the sideline, he's looking at him like, maybe throw that and don't get sandwiched.
Yeah, because I think he had Ethan Davis in the top left, like wide open, and I was like, yeah, he could have thrown that in. But I like how he was kind of like, trying to fill that linebacker out and be like, okay, well, I'm just going to commit to the run. So, yeah.
Why put the ball in the air when you can just tuck it and run?
Right.
That's the safer bet. That's the safer bet. Oh, man, I didn't think this was going to be so painful. Reliving that Alabama game was extremely painful. Remembering that you were up 2 scores in that game is extremely painful. But as we look back on year 3 of the Josh Heupel era, we talked about how much fun last year was and that epic run, the Orange Bowl win, what Hendon did. It was an exciting second year under Josh Heupel. Year 3, we kind of said it was maybe going to be a transition year. We've talked all season about how it feels like we were kind of in cruise control, just going through the motions. Even as a fan base, I feel like we're like, okay, yep, they won. All right, let's move on. I'm ready for 2024. But you look, 20 wins in 2 years. They've not done that since 2003 and 2004. Josh Heupel started at freaking rock bottom, and he is already, man, they are so far ahead of schedule. 7 wins in year 1. Man, you should have got a win in your bowl game. That loss leaves a bad taste in my mouth. But 7 wins in year 1, 11 wins year 2, 9 wins year 3. You look back on year 3 of the Josh Heupel era, I know we can complain about Joe, but Coach Jay, what do you think of where this program's at right now after 3 years under Josh Heupel's watch?
I mean, I think it's extremely healthy, right? And bordering on the point to where we can look at a lot of long-term success down the road. hey, all eyes are about to turn to George McIntyre, right? And I think it bodes well for Tennessee that Nico had that good showing. I think George is going to see that and want to be around that, right? And we'll see if it has that Nico effect. We'll see if he can come in, man. That's scary. And I'm not dismissing Merklinger either, because that kid can flat out play as well and ball out too. But you could have two really generational talents coming through Tennessee in a 10-year period. And when you can do something like that, ask Clemson what it can do for your program, right? It can really, really elevate you. And I think Tennessee's built a lot better for it from a structural standpoint than Clemson even is, being in the Southeastern Conference and kind of being able to pull from everywhere like we can. I think it could be huge, man. I think this program's extremely healthy. And if we step up and make that playoff next year, the sky's the freaking limit, man. And make no mistake about it, I'll say it right now. That playoff is the goal. Anything else is coming up short.
Yeah, I was getting ready to comment on that, Coach. I was getting ready
Yeah,
to
to
take
get
the
it
words
out,
right. Yeah,
right?
you was getting ready to take the words out of my. Yeah, I think starting year 4 of the Josh Heupel era with Nico is what you just said, Coach. Yeah, like the goal now is you have to get to the playoffs. Now that it's extended, like into 12 teams. Also, I think too, like winning the East is important too, because for the longest, other fan bases, especially Florida, have always taunted in our face, saying, "Oh, you can never win the East," and this and that, blah 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 blah. Well, I feel like with Nico and the effect of him for this team going forward is that yes, you still try to go win the East, but very more importantly, it's playoff time, baby. I mean,
There is no more East though.
I was gonna
That's
say-
the problem.
Yeah. It's top two
there's no more
teams.
East West. It's
Yeah,
the top two.
yeah,
That's wild.
yeah.
It's going to be.
Yeah,
I mean, I agree with you. I don't think when you look at the way that the 12-team format is set up, will there ever be a year that you don't have 4 to 5 SEC teams in it? I don't see how you don't. I mean, go back and look at the top 25 of the last 10 years and just look. If you go back and you rank those 12, but you're going to get opportunities too. I think that's the best part about this is you're going to get opportunities to beat really, really bright stages, even more than what we had when we were playing the East and then having the Alabama rivalry, and every other year having somebody from the West. You get the Nico effect on the first game in the SEC on the road at Heupel's, stomping grounds at Oklahoma. What kind of statement is that if you go into Norman and you welcome Oklahoma to the SEC with a loss, right? I mean, it's just the opportunities that the 12-team does is go 10-2. And if you go 10-2, whether you win your conference or not, you're in. You're going to be in. I mean, and the only question I have for this team, I mean, there's a couple, but we've talked and talked and talked about the secondary for years and years and years. There is nobody there that we have any breakdown on to complain about. It's going to be brand new. And do our tight ends step up the way that McCollum Castles stepped up this year? Does Holden Stays, come in and do what Castles did? That we know that position is so important. Your offensive and defensive lines are basically last year's team. So, those are some of the things we have. But I agree with you. 12-team playoff or bust.
I'm with you on it. I think it's 10. You got to get 10 wins, right? That's got to be the goal for 2024. You win 10, I think you're in. I think you're in the top 12. And you look at the schedule for 2024, and those first 3 games, people want to start talking about NC State. I ain't worried about it. Tennessee's going to open up the season 3-0. You're going to roll into Norman. And for me, and man, I feel like it's been my narrative for the past 2 seasons. You roll through September undefeated, I think you're winning 10 football games. I just think you are. I think if you go beat Oklahoma on the road, you're going to take care of Arkansas, and you're going to take care of the Gators. And then you got to find a way to beat Alabama and Georgia. Can you do that? If you don't do it, I think you're still getting 10 wins. And look, it's way too early, man. It's the way too early predictions, the way too early talk. I think 10 wins is very reachable. Is that going to be my season prediction? I don't know, man. You got to see how things shake out in the portal. Matt's right. I mean, look at the secondary right now. They don't have enough guys. They don't have enough bodies in the secondary. We're going to have to see what this roster looks like. It's going to look different in 2 weeks. It's going to look different again in the spring. After you get through that spring cycle, we'll have to see what this football team looks like. But what I like is the offense, because we know what we've got on offense. Yeah, the tight end position is a question mark. I think we know what we've got in our wide receivers. We know what we got in our running backs. We know what we got in the offensive line. The key is something Coach Jay, you mentioned recently, is depth on the offensive line. You have to stay healthy, and there are some targets in the portal. Going to be making a video tomorrow, probably around noon, probably around lunchtime, about a couple of offensive linemen in the portal that Tennessee is they are in communication with. We'll see if anything shakes out there, but if you, of course, it's the same every year. You got to stay healthy. You got to stay healthy. But I think this football team can score enough points that if they're not elite on defense, even though that's the goal, that's what Josh Heupel wants to do, I think they can still go win 10 games in 2024.
Yeah, and again, Boog, it's like even from this season too, like from the very early of the season, we were saying that the defense was just so dominant, but the offense took a step back this year. So now it kind of makes you question again going into next year. It's like, okay, so now is the offense going to take a step forward now that you got Nico, that's the captain, and the defense takes a step back? Or hopefully we can find like a common balance to where, yeah, you got to hit the portal hard for the secondary. And then I know there's still questions about Willie Martinez, about him retiring and us finding another secondary coach. But, yeah, I mean, it just makes you wonder. But I think the offense is definitely going to take a more even bigger step forward, and the defense we just wait to be seen.
Yeah, I'll just keep harping on it, man. To me, depth is everything. Your offensive line, this SEC just got tougher, right? Adding more teams, there's going to be attrition. There's going to be attrition, guys. We're going to have people go down. We need to build that depth to make it through this schedule and get to that playoff. So, listen, there's always going to be those caveats of you got to stay healthy. I think the secondary is going to take a step, man. I was really happy with Ricky Gibson and the way he played. For those of you who didn't catch the Jermod McCoy breakdown, and thank you for all the support. That's been awesome to see that video take off. But go back and watch that if you haven't. That kid can play, man. That kid's an absolute baller. So I'm really excited about him. Be nice to get another guy out of the secondary, man. Maybe this Temple kid or who knows. But I wouldn't mind getting
there's another
more.
one, Aiden White from NC State. I don't know how high he is, but I think he's a depth piece that Tennessee's talking to him too. But then also the Temple kid that you mentioned as well. Let me
whenever you can take one away from an enemy, right?
This super
and you're going
chat
to play them next year.
From Nicholas, thank you for the $5 super chat. Says Squirrel White, Chris Brazel, Brew McCoy, Dante Thornton, Mike Matthews, Caleb Webb, Chaz Nimrod. I'm going to go ahead and fix it for him. Braylon Staley. That is one of the best wide receiver rooms in the country. Man, I'm excited about the future, man. I am so excited about these young wide receivers. Young talent, man. I feel like, I've talked all the time on this channel about how the transfer portal, the timing of the portal allowed Heupel to get this rebuild going way faster, right? Way faster. And now we're seeing some of these old guys wrap up their careers, and it's time for these young guns to come in and step up, and we got some good ones, man. On defense, on offense, just across the board. Seeing Tyree West go out there and dominate in that bowl game, he looked good. He looked the part. Everybody's already saying Tyler who? They've already forgot, man. We're ready for Tyree West. Coach Jay talking about the young DBs. And you look at this class of freshmen that's coming in. There's some studs, man. There are some studs. Look, it might not be a top 5 class. Let me tell you something. There's some blue chippers in this class that we're going to be talking about for a long time.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And then going back to earlier when, you and Cain was putting the bet on, what wide receiver that you think is going to take the outside along with Brew and Squirrel. Yeah, I think Dante still has it, man. Because like I said, we really didn't get to see his full potential, Because, like you put him in the slot and, like Cain was saying earlier, I just think he was just thinking too much. Like I think he just wasn't really comfortable in the slot. But when we moved him to the outside, he just looked like himself. He was just comfortable. You know what I'm saying? He made that beautiful catch and before he went down with that injury. But, yeah, I still go with Thornton because he's also, he's got a lot more reps with the team. So that's who I'm going with. But like I said, I would love to see how Brazel, how he's going to compete, and I definitely want to see him on the field sometime soon as well.
What do you guys think? Who starts on the opposite side of Brew?
Go ahead, Matt.
Y'all gonna say the same guy?
I think it's gonna be Brazel. I really do. I mean, when he committed, I went and watched his highlight tapes, and he's hard to guard. Now I know he came out of Tulane. The competition is not the same as it is in the SEC, but when you're a P5 receiver and you're consistently open because you're leaving DBs in the dust, that's something to be talked about. And he's an incredible deep ball catcher. I mean, just go watch him. I think either way you're fine more than likely, because whoever beats out who is the one who deserves a spot. But if I'm going to put money on it right now, I think it's Brazel.
Yeah, I kind of think it's Brazel too. But listen, I think you're going to see a lot of Thornton too. I don't know about a true like flat out rotation, but I think you're going to see a healthy amount of Thornton, Brazel, Brew, Squirrel. And I would not be surprised at all if you see one of the young kids, get some run too. Maybe Matthews, maybe Staley. We'll see. Heck, maybe even throw a little Brew McCoy in, and not Brew, sorry, Boo Carter in, and some special little packages. I could see that totally happening as well. But we're about to find out. Either way, our wide receiver core is going to get a lot better. I'll tell you what, I think Brazel or Thornton probably make that catch that Ramel stopped on the other day. They're just a lot taller, would have got through that, unless the sun was that bad. But to me, the more I watch that play, I think he just had a bad beat on it and stopped.
Trey Thomas for 10s, as we're about to see Nico let loose in Norman with so many weapons, strongly feel that our secondary takes a step with maybe Boo at star. We're bringing it home. Thank you, Trey, for the super chat. We appreciate that. You guys think Boo's going to start? I don't think he is. I don't think he's going to start as a freshman. I think you're going to see him in the return game, but I don't think he's going to start as a true freshman.
Yeah,
unpopular opinion. Unpopular opinion.
Coach Rice is fuming right now.
What's all right?
Yeah, Coach Rice is fuming right now. But listen,
I bet he's not fuming as much as his wife was when he forgot they had plans and had to text me and say, "My wife said I'm not getting on tonight." Shout out, Coach Rice.
Flag on the play, Coach.
All right, yeah. Shout out to Coach Rice. Definitely keep the wife happy. Happy wife, happy life.
I was going full set. I asked everybody to come on. Everybody got the invite. And I said, if there's 8 of us, then there's 8 of us. I don't care. It's a season recap. All right, Coach, I've cut you off twice. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think Boo sees the 2 deep on defense. I don't know if he's just flat out a starter or not. We'll see how high that football IQ truly is, because I think he's got all the talent in the world and could start from an athletic standpoint, but the IQ's got to be there. So if it is, he will. And if it's not quite, plus 1,000 IQ, then I see him in the 2 deep, but we'll see. I like our options at star. So we'll see how it goes.
Timothy McGee for 5 says, hey, hopefully we do less option routes, more timing routes. Also, we have smash and dash with Sampson and Salters. Selden, I bet he means. Smash and dash with Sampson and Selden, I bet is what he meant to put there. How about smash and dash and a whole lot of open grass with Peyton Lewis?
Salters going to Auburn?
I would bet, wouldn't you think?
Happening?
I would imagine.
I think so. And is Jackson Dart out of eligibility at Ole Miss? I feel like I should know this.
No, he's not.
He's not out of eligibility?
He's not? I thought he was done.
No, he's got 1 more year. I coached that kid in Utah, which is interesting to say, in high school baseball.
Cool.
Yeah, so yeah, he's got 1 more year. That's the from talking to his dad, that's the reason that Lane's gone all in on the 24
he's back.
cycles, because he's back for his final year. Yeah.
Dude, Alabama had a wave of players enter the portal today, didn't they?
Yeah, their starting center entered.
Did you guys see?
Did you
that
see
defensive
why?
back? But
No.
yeah, did you see where that defensive back where he declared for the draft after that loss? He was like, "I'm out.
I'm out.
I'm done."
Yeah,
The
no.
center-
Why does the center?
Apparently he
Yeah,
got
why-
death threats. So he's like, F this, I'm out. I'm not playing here anymore.
Yeah, I saw that.
People talk about how bad our fan base is, every fan base has idiots in it. You know, it's like, it's man, the stuff that JG put up with here, you know, it's a joke, man. It's yes, we are all passionate. We are diehard. We are psychotic. We love the game. We want Tennessee to win, but sometimes you got to maybe just put the phone down. Put the phone down. Move on with life.
Yeah. Text a buddy.
And remember, like I said, these are kids that are playing. I say they're going to make mistakes, and they're human. They're not perfect.
Yeah, I'm guessing because of the low snap, right? At the end of the
he
game.
had snap issues all year long. I mean,
all year long.
That game. Yeah, and it came back to bite him on the very last play. And on top of that, he got absolutely blown up and got knocked into Milrow. And that's what happened. He tripped over the center's legs, and he just got blown up.
I just don't see why Milrow just didn't give his receivers a chance. Like, I was just like, bruh, I was like, you're right there. Like, give your receivers a chance. It kind of, that kind of reminded me of, and I don't know why we're talking about Alabama right now, but it just kind of reminded me of, like, Joe during that Ole Miss play. Like, I was just like, dude, like, you didn't give your receivers a chance. But, I mean, it is what it is. So I'm just happy that they're not going to get another chip this year. So I'm happy.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see how many players. Yep. Yeah. Be interesting to see how many of the Bama kids go into the portal. That's for sure.
I think I just looked. I think there's been 8 already.
Wow.
So
that's quite a few. Yeah. There's no more. Listen, there's no more stockpiling that amount of talent on any team anymore. So a little bit of parity is not the worst thing.
I think we're actually
with
getting
this double transfer rule.
That's the stupidest thing ever.
Yeah,
that is so dumb.
They got to change that.
That is so stupid. That is a disaster. But at least they're only doing it for what this upcoming year, and then it's going back away. Hopefully, I understand what this law person, attorney, whoever he is, what was it, a judge? I understand what he thinks he's doing. Oh, I mean, we're impacting a young man's livelihood, opportunity to make money. You gotta understand what you're talking about before you start making decisions like that. But I do, I know a lot of people hate the portal. They hate NIL. I think it is bringing some parity to college football. If you were sick and tired of seeing Alabama win national championships year in and year out, I think you're going to see everything kind of even up because kids are going to transfer for playing time. I think you got to put some regulations in. I think you need a salary cap. Do we need a college football commissioner? I saw talks of that. You're definitely becoming the NFL if that's where you go. But I think you almost need one at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Peyton should be the commissioner of college football. I agree. I agree, Boogie.
Let's start that campaign. Peyton for commissioner.
You need something because it's free agency with no contracts.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah, I agree.
Can you imagine if you're a professional football player and it's week 4 and you just decide I don't want to play for this team anymore, and then at week 8 you're signing up and playing with somebody else? I mean, it's just it's
wild.
It is what it is, and I think until something's going to happen because I don't think it can sustain this way. I just don't know how it does. And can you imagine if you're a team like Ole Miss that throws out the Grove Collective at every top portal edition you could possibly do, and you don't win? I mean, what does that look like? I mean,
how awesome will it?
Yeah, it's the Texas A&M recruiting class fiasco with Jimbo just in Oxford if it happens that way.
Yeah, it would be super awesome to be able to play Ole Miss in the playoff this coming up season.
And especially all the pieces that they're getting now. Oh, yeah, especially all the players are getting from the portal now. Oh, yeah.
That would be a lot of fun.
I brought up the other day, I think it was the fan call-in show, talking about Ole Miss going all in the portal. Look at Florida State. Look what happened when they got left out. They were a portal-filled team. They get left out, and everybody's like, screw this, I'm not playing in this bowl game. They don't care because they're all about me.
Yeah.
You're going to have so many locker room issues at Ole Miss. They're going to have locker room issues.
Yep.
And then when it doesn't work out, Lane's going to end up at Florida or somewhere else, Alabama, when Saban retires here in 4 days. Timothy for another $5 says, I think it should go back to the old way where you have to sit out a year if you transfer unless you have a legitimate reason for leaving. I disagree. I'm fine with the one-time transfer as long as there's rules and regulations around it. One time, and then that's it. I don't even know if I like the graduate transfer being like that's just a second-time transfer. I mean, you got kids been playing college football for 18 years at this point, and then they're like, I'm going to transfer. I don't know that I like the graduate transfer rule, but I'm fine with them transferring once. I just think, yeah, salary cap, you got to have some rules, regulations put in. But anyway, man, we've been live for an hour and 15 minutes. I think we're going to wrap this one up. I'm debating doing a watch party for the national championship now, especially that Alabama's not in it, Texas isn't in it. We can actually have some fun, jump on, do our January watch party for the watch party tier enthusiasts for Washington and Michigan. I'll let you guys know, keep you guys up to date on that. We're working on some player interviews. We'll see what comes of it. Obviously, we got Braylon Staley. If we get that scheduled, we may just do a random Wednesday and do a 30-minute interview with the player and then do 30 minutes talking about whatever's going on, whether that's recruiting, transfer portal. I don't care. We can talk about whatever you guys want to talk about, but I want to see if we can maybe work some of these player interviews into the offseason. You guys know what to do. Take to Twitter. Tell them Talkin VAWLS is the voice of Vol Nation. Come here, hang out, talk with the fans. We would love to do it. But that's going to wrap it up for this one. Smash the thumbs up on the way out the door, guys. Go check out the merchandise. If you're not a member, if you're in the chat right now and you don't have a Power T beside your name, we need your help. Hit that join button down below. It's $1. $1, you become a member of the channel. Look, you might find yourself on a fan call-in show. This is a regular Wednesday show, and guess what? I'm the only person on here that didn't earn a spot through the fan call-in show. That's what happens on the fan call-in show. All of a sudden, you find yourself working for the Talkin VAWLS Network. But you're also supporting what we're trying to build around here. Could not do it, especially in the offseason without you guys. I'm grateful. Appreciate every single one of you guys. Appreciate Coach Jay, the X Factor, and Matt for jumping on here. But that is going to do it for this one. This is the Talkin VAWLS Network. My name is Boogie Bentley. Go Big Orange.
That we call home, and it's night and I'm alone and dying.